Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Station, watching something that should not exist. A massive ship had appeared in Earth's orbit without any warning. The ship was unlike anything humans had ever built. It looked like a giant crystal palace floating in space with light flowing through its walls like water. "Sir, we're getting a message," said Lieutenant Amy Peterson from her station. She was the best xenobiologist on Earth, someone who studied alien life forms. Her hands moved quickly over her controls as strange symbols appeared on the screen. "What does it say?" Jake asked. He had been captain of Earth's defense forces for 10 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Amy looked up with worry in her eyes. "They're calling themselves the Galactic Council. They say humanity must come to answer for crimes against galactic law." Jake felt his stomach drop. Humanity had only discovered faster-than-light travel 5 years ago. They barely knew other species existed, and now they were being accused of crimes. "What crimes?" he asked. Amy read from her screen. "Violation of the Non-Interference Directive, illegal expansion beyond designated sectors, and..." She paused, her voice getting quieter. "Complete destruction of the Zephyrian slave fleet." Jake remembered that mission. 3 months ago, his ships had found alien vessels capturing primitive species from a dozen worlds. The aliens were taking people who had never even invented spaceflight. When Jake's forces tried to stop them, the aliens claimed they had legal rights to take these people. The battle that followed had destroyed the entire alien fleet. "They want us to report to their tribunal ship immediately," Amy continued. "If we refuse, they will consider it an act of war against the entire galaxy." Jake looked out at the massive ship again. Earth's entire fleet would be like insects compared to that thing. He made his decision. "Amy, you're coming with me. If we're going to face alien justice, I want our best scientists there to help figure out what we're dealing with." 2 hours later, Jake and Amy stood in a small Earth shuttle flying toward the alien ship. As they got closer, they could see the ship was even bigger than they thought. Cities could fit inside its hull. "Captain," Amy said, studying her readings, "this ship is older than human civilization. Some of these materials don't exist in our part of the galaxy." The shuttle was pulled inside by some kind of invisible force. They found themselves in a bay filled with ships from dozens of different species. Some looked like metal insects. Others were made of what seemed like living wood. One appeared to be pure energy held in a container. Alien beings met them at the shuttle door. They looked like walking crystals, tall and thin, with light flowing through their bodies. One of them spoke in perfect English, though its voice sounded like wind chimes. "Humans Jake Morrison and Amy Peterson, you will follow us to the tribunal chamber." They walked through corridors that seemed to grow and change as they moved. The walls showed pictures of countless alien worlds and species. Amy tried to count them but gave up after reaching 100. The tribunal chamber was enormous. In the center sat 5 massive beings, each completely different from the others. One was made of crystals like their guide. Another looked like a ball of pure light. The third appeared to be thousands of small creatures moving as one. The fourth was clearly a machine, but more advanced than anything humans had built. The last one looked like a tree, but its branches moved like arms. "Humans," said the crystal being. "I am Judge Crystallius Prime of the Vorthak. You stand accused of crimes against the established order of the galaxy." Jake stepped forward. "We demand to know what laws we supposedly broke." Earth never agreed to follow galactic law. "Ignorance is not a defense," the light being said. Its voice was like music. "All species in this galaxy are bound by the same laws whether they know them or not." The machine being projected images in the air above them. Jake and Amy watched in horror as they saw footage of their battle with the Zephyrian slave ships. But the images were edited to make it look like humans had attacked peaceful traders. "The Zephyrians had legal salvage rights to all primitive species in their designated area," said the tree being. Its voice was like rustling leaves. "These species had not achieved faster-than-light travel, making them available for harvest. Under Section 847 of the Galactic Resource Management Code." Amy felt sick. "You're saying it's legal to take people as slaves if they can't travel between stars?" Slavery is an emotional human term, the swarm being said. Thousands of tiny voices spoke as one. The Galactic Code recognizes only resource allocation. Primitive species are resources to be managed by more advanced civilizations. Jake's hands clenched into fists. That's the most evil thing I've ever heard. Evil is another emotional concept, Judge Crystallius Prime said. The Galactic Code is based on pure logic and mathematics. It has maintained order for 50,000 years. The machine being continued showing evidence. Humans had rescued over 10,000 beings from the Zephyrian ships. They had given these people homes on human worlds or helped them return to their home planets. According to galactic law, this was theft of legally claimed resources. The penalty for your crimes is simple, Judge Crystallius Prime announced. Complete eradication of the human species and all beings you have corrupted with your unlawful interference. Amy grabbed Jake's arm. She had been studying the tribunal chamber and noticed something important. Captain, look at the walls. Those aren't just decorations, they're showing the history of galactic law. Jake looked where Amy was pointing. The images on the walls told a story. Long ago, 5 powerful species had conquered the galaxy. They had written laws that made sure they would always stay in power. Any species that grew strong enough to challenge them was destroyed. You're not judges, Jake said, understanding flooding through him. You're the descendants of conquerors who made laws to keep everyone else weak. The source of law is irrelevant, the light being said. Only its application matters. But Jake saw something in the way the judges looked at each other. They were worried that humans might understand too much about their system. We demand the high right to defend ourselves properly, Jake said. If you're going to destroy our entire species, at least give us a fair trial. Judge Crystallius Prime was quiet for a long moment. Very well. You will have 3 days to prepare your defense, but understand this. No species has ever successfully challenged the Galactic Code. Your fate is already decided. As the guards led them away, Amy whispered to Jake, I think I found something in those wall images. There might be a way to fight this, but it's going to be dangerous. Jake nodded. Humanity had 3 days to find a way to challenge 50,000 years of galactic tyranny. The odds were impossible, but that had never stopped humans before. Lisa Hamilton arrived on the tribunal ship 12 hours before the trial began. She was Earth's most brilliant lawyer, someone who had never lost a case in 20 years of practice. But as she studied the galactic legal code, she realized this would be unlike anything she had ever faced. There are over 10 million laws in this code, she told Jake and Amy as they sat in their assigned quarters. And they all seemed designed to make sure that newer species can never win against older ones. Amy had been studying the tribunal's computer systems. It's worse than that. I've been looking at how they make decisions. They don't use judges like we do. Everything is decided by mathematical formulas. What kind of formulas? Lisa asked. Amy pulled up a holographic display. They take things like how long a species has had space travel, how many worlds they control, their population size, and their technology level. Then they run it through equations that always favor the older, more powerful species. Jake shook his head. So it's rigged from the start. Completely, Lisa agreed. I've been reading their case histories. In 50,000 years, no young species has ever won a major case against an older one. The math makes it impossible. The trial began in the massive tribunal chamber. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy had come to watch. Most seemed to expect a quick human defeat. Judge Crystallius Prime spoke first. The prosecution will present evidence of human crimes against galactic order. A new being stepped forward to prosecute the case. It looked like a metal spider with too many legs. Its voice was cold and mechanical. Honored judges, the humans have committed the worst crime possible in galactic law. They have disrupted the natural order. For 50,000 years, advanced species have managed primitive ones for the greater good of the galaxy. The prosecutor showed more images of human rescue missions. In each case, humans had found advanced aliens taking primitive beings from their worlds. The humans had demanded the aliens stop. When they refused, humans had used force. The Zephyrians were not slavers, as humans claim, the prosecutor continued. They were performing essential ecosystem management. Primitive species breed too, quickly and use resources without thought. If left alone, they destroy their worlds and die anyway. Advanced species save them by putting them to useful work. Amy felt sick listening to this. The prosecutor was describing slavery as a kindness. Furthermore, the prosecutor said, the species humans rescued are now living on human worlds. This is theft of legally claimed property. The total value of stolen resources is over 1 billion galactic credits. Lisa stood to object. These are people, not property. Irrelevant, Judge Crystallius Prime said. Galactic law recognizes only resource classification. Species without faster than light travel are classified as managed resources, not independent entities. The prosecutor spent hours showing case after case. Human ships had interfered with legal resource collection across a dozen star systems. They had destroyed alien ships worth billions of credits. They had stolen thousands of managed beings and refused to return them. When it was Lisa's turn to defend humanity, she stood before the judges knowing that normal legal arguments would not work. Honored judges, humanity does not deny the charges. We saved people from slavery and we would do it again. But I want to challenge the very foundation of the laws you claim we broke. The light being, Judge Luminara Eternal, spoke. The foundation of galactic law cannot be challenged. It has existed for 50,000 years. That's exactly why it should be challenged, Lisa said. Your laws were written by 5 species who conquered the galaxy. They wrote laws that would keep them in power forever. The origin of law does not matter, the tree being said. Only its current application is relevant. Lisa had expected this answer. Then let's talk about application. You say these laws maintain order, but what kind of order? An order where billions of people live in slavery, where entire species are wiped out if they grow too strong, where justice depends on how old your civilization is, the machine being projected new images. Order where war is rare, order where resources are managed efficiently, order where the galaxy remains stable. Stable for who? Jake called out. Stable for the 5 species that run everything? Judge Crystallius Prime began to look annoyed. The defendants will remain silent unless asked to speak. But Amy had been studying the tribunal's own records during the trial. She found something that made her heart race. Lisa, she whispered urgently, look at Section 45 Alpha of their legal code. There's something there that might help us. Lisa quickly accessed the section Amy mentioned. Hidden deep in the ancient legal code was something she had never expected to find. It was called the right of trial by ordeal. Honored judges, Lisa said, I invoke humanity's right under Section 45 Alpha of the Galactic Code. We demand trial by ordeal. The chamber fell completely silent. All 5 judges stared at Lisa in shock. That section has not been used in over 20,000 years, the swarm being said. But it has never been removed from the code, Lisa replied. According to your own laws, any defendant facing species extinction may invoke this right. Judge Crystallius Prime spoke quietly with the other judges. Their conversation lasted several minutes. The human is correct, the Crystal Judge finally said. The right of trial by ordeal remains valid. However, the human defendants should understand that no species has ever successfully completed the required trials. Most are destroyed in the attempt. What are the trials? Jake asked. There are 3 trials, Judge Luminara Eternal explained. The trial of perfect justice, where you must successfully resolve 100 impossible legal cases. The trial of ultimate sacrifice, where you must prove your commitment to justice above your own survival. And the trial of absolute truth, where you must demonstrate that your way is better than 50,000 years of galactic law. Amy felt a chill run down her spine. What happens if we succeed? If you complete all 3 trials, the machine being said, you earn the right to challenge the authority of this tribunal itself. You could potentially reshape galactic law according to your own principles, the tree being added. But failure in any trial means immediate execution of your entire species, with no possibility of appeal. Lisa looked at Jake and Amy. The choice was impossible. Accept certain death under current galactic law, or risk certain death trying to change it. Jake made the decision for all of them. We accept the trial by ordeal. Judge Crystallius Prime nodded slowly. Very well. The first trial begins in 1 hour. You will be given access to 100 of the most difficult legal cases in galactic history. Cases that have remained unsolved for centuries. You have 72 hours to resolve all of them to the satisfaction of all parties involved. As the tribunal session ended, Amy grabbed Lisa's arm. Do you realize what we just agreed to? Lisa nodded grimly. We just bet the survival of humanity on our ability to solve legal problems that have stumped the galaxy's best minds for hundreds of years. Jake looked determined. Then we better get started. We have 72 hours to prove that human justice is better than galactic law. The 3 humans were led to a chamber filled with computers and case files. 100 impossible legal problems waited for them. The fate of humanity now depended on whether they could find solutions where 50,000 years of galactic law had failed. The chamber containing the 100 impossible cases was filled with holographic displays showing conflicts from across the galaxy. Each case had been tried multiple times over centuries, with no solution that satisfied all parties involved. Look, at this first case, Amy said, pointing to a display showing 2 very different alien species. The Aryans live in gas giant atmospheres, and the Lithoids mine asteroids. They're fighting over the Kepler 442 system because both need resources there. Lisa studied the case files. According to galactic law, whichever species filed their claim first gets the entire system. The Aryans filed first, so they win everything. But the Lithoids will starve without those asteroid minerals. Jake read through more details. Previous judges have tried splitting the system in half, but that doesn't work. The Aryans need the gas giants' moons for breeding grounds, and those moons contain the exact minerals the Lithoids need to survive. This is designed to be impossible, Amy realized. Galactic law only knows how to pick winners and losers. It can't create solutions where everyone benefits. Lisa sat down and started thinking differently. What if we don't try to divide the system? What if we help them work together instead? What do you mean? Jake asked. The Aryans need the gas giant for living space, but they don't actually use the solid materials in the moons. The Lithoids need minerals, but they can't survive in gas giant atmospheres. What if they become partners instead of competitors? Amy's eyes lit up. The Aryans could give the Lithoids exclusive mining rights to all solid materials in the system. In exchange, the Lithoids could process atmospheric gases into rare compounds that Aryans need, but can't make themselves. Lisa started writing up their solution. Instead of one species owning everything and the other getting nothing, both species would specialize in what they did best and trade with each other. They moved to the second case. 2 spacefaring civilizations had been at war for 300 years over a trade route. Galactic law said the route belonged to whoever controlled the most planets along it. Another winner-takes-all situation, Jake noted. The Confederacy controls more planets, so they get the route. The Republic loses everything and their economy collapses. But look at this data, Amy said, studying shipping records. The trade route is only profitable because both civilizations use it. If one side controls it completely, there's not enough traffic to make money. Lisa smiled. So we make them joint partners in managing the route. They split the profits and share the costs of keeping it safe. More money for everyone and no reason to fight. Hours passed as they worked through case after case. Each time, they found that galactic law had created no-win situations by treating every conflict as a competition. The humans looked for ways to turn competitors into partners. Case 15 involved a planet where 2 different species had evolved at the same time. Galactic law said only one species could legally claim a world. Previous judges had tried splitting the planet in half, but both species needed resources from all parts of the world to survive. Joint government, Lisa declared. Both species make decisions together about their shared world. They already understand the planet better than any outside species could. Amy was getting excited as their approach worked again and again. We're not just solving legal problems. We're proving that cooperation works better than competition. By the end of the first day, they had solved 30 cases. Jake was amazed at how simple most solutions were once they stopped thinking about winners and losers. The galactic legal system makes everything complicated because it's designed to maintain power structures, he realized. Our solutions work because we're focused on making life better for everyone. The second day brought harder cases. They faced a situation where 5 different species claimed the same ancient artifacts. Galactic law said the artifacts should go to whichever species was most closely related to the extinct civilization that made them. DNA testing shows the Valdari are 12% genetically similar to the original species, Amy read. But the other 4 species all have cultural traditions that match the artifacts' purposes, Lisa thought for a moment. The artifacts were made to be used, not stored in museums. Each species takes the artifacts that match their cultural needs. The Valdari get to study them all first to preserve scientific knowledge about the extinct civilization. But what if the species damage the artifacts by using them? Jake asked. Amy had an idea. They work together to create perfect copies using modern technology. The originals go to a neutral location where all 5 species can study them. The copies get used in living cultural traditions. Case after case fell to the human approach. Where galactic law saw only conflict, humans found cooperation. Where the old system created resentment and future wars, human solutions built lasting friendships between species. The hardest case came on the 3rd day. An advanced species called the hegemony had been using a primitive species called the dwellers as living computers for 1,000 years. The dwellers were kept in a dreamlike state while their brains processed data for hegemony machines. This is pure slavery, Jake said angrily. But according to galactic law, it's completely legal because the dwellers never developed space travel. Previous judges have tried to solve this by limiting how many dwellers can be used, Lisa read. But that just means some dwellers stay, enslaved while others go free. Amy studied the biological data. The dwellers are actually incredibly intelligent. Their brains work faster than any computer the hegemony has built. They've been kept drugged for so long they don't even remember being free. The hegemony claims they need the dwellers to run their civilization, Jake noted. Their argument is that freeing the dwellers would collapse their entire economy and leave billions of hegemony citizens without food or medicine. Lisa stared at the case files for hours. This wasn't just about finding a fair solution. This was about ending a system of slavery that an entire civilization depended on. Finally, she had an answer. The dwellers get their freedom immediately. But instead of just abandoning the hegemony, we create a partnership. The dwellers are incredible at processing information. The hegemony is good at building technology. They work together as equal partners to create something better than either could build alone. Will the dwellers agree to that after being enslaved for 1,000 years? Amy asked. That's their choice to make as free beings, Lisa replied. But we show them that working together voluntarily is different from being forced to work. They can choose to help their former masters become better people. With 6 hours left before the deadline, they had solved 97 cases. The 3 remaining cases were the hardest of all. Case 98 involved a situation where one species had accidentally destroyed another species' homeworld. Case 99 dealt with time travel paradoxes that had created multiple conflicting versions of history. Case 100 was about a species that had evolved into pure energy and claimed ownership of all electromagnetic radiation in the galaxy. Jake looked at the time remaining. These last 3 cases have been unsolved for over 5,000 years, each. Then we better think fast, Lisa said, rolling up her sleeves. Amy was already studying the first case. The Mishans accidentally caused a solar flare that burned up the gentlefolk's world. Galactic law says the Mishans owe impossible amounts of money in compensation, but paying it would destroy the Mishan civilization too. Money can't bring back a dead world, Jake realized. But maybe the Mishans can give the gentlefolk something more valuable than money. Like what? Lisa asked. Jake smiled. A new world. The Mishans are experts at planetary engineering. Instead of paying money they don't have, they spend the next century building the gentlefolk a new homeworld that's even better than the one they lost. 2 cases down, 1 to go. and only 2 hours left. The time travel case was giving them more trouble than expected. Amy rubbed her tired eyes as she tried to understand the complex situation. The Temporal Consortium used time travel to prevent a war that would have destroyed 12 worlds, she explained to Jake and Lisa. But changing history created a new timeline where different people exist. The descendants of the people who were never born are suing to have their timeline restored. Lisa felt a headache coming on. So we have two groups of people. One group exists because the war was prevented. The other group would exist if the war had happened. Both groups have equal right to exist, but only one timeline can be real. Jake studied the case files. Previous judges tried to find a compromise timeline where both groups could exist, but every attempt created even more paradoxes. Wait, Amy said suddenly. What if we're thinking about this wrong? What if the solution isn't about choosing which timeline is correct? What do you mean? Lisa asked. Amy pulled up star charts, showing the affected regions. The time travel only changed history in one part of the galaxy. Most of the universe stayed the same. What if we let both groups exist, but in different parts of space? I don't understand how that would work, Jake said. The people from the original timeline still exist in the quantum structure of spacetime, Amy explained. The Temporal Consortium could use their technology to give them physical form again, but in a different part of the galaxy, where they won't. Conflict with the current timeline. Lisa started to see the solution. Both groups get to exist. Both groups get their own space to build their civilizations. The universe is big enough for everyone. With 30 minutes left before the deadline, they turned to the final case. The energy beings called the Radiant claimed that all electromagnetic radiation in the galaxy belonged to them because they were made of pure energy. This is crazy, Jake said. They're claiming ownership of light itself. Every species that uses electricity or radio waves would have to pay them. Amy studied the scientific data about the Radiant. They evolved from a species that used to have physical bodies. Over millions of years, they learned to transform into pure energy. Now they think that makes them the rightful owners of all energy in the galaxy. But energy can't be owned, Lisa protested. It's like trying to own gravity or time. Tell that to the Radiant, Jake replied. They've been demanding payment from every civilization for the past 10,000 years. Most species just ignore them, but the legal case has never been resolved. Lisa looked at the time. 15 minutes left. This case seemed impossible because it challenged the basic nature of reality itself. What do the Radiant actually want? She asked, reading through their demands. Amy found the answer. They want recognition that they are the most advanced form of life in the galaxy. They want other species to acknowledge their superiority. And they want everyone to pay them for using energy, Jake added. Lisa had an idea. What if we give them something better than money or acknowledgement of superiority? Like what? Amy asked. Purpose, Lisa said. The Radiant are made of pure energy. They can travel anywhere in the galaxy instantly. They can see things no other species can see. Instead of demanding payment for energy use, they become the galaxy's early warning system. Jake began to understand. They monitor space for dangerous phenomena. Black holes, gamma-ray bursts, solar flares. They warn other species about threats and help them prepare. The Radiant get recognition for being unique and valuable, Amy added excitedly. But it's based on what they contribute to the galaxy, not on demanding ownership of fundamental forces. Lisa started writing frantically as the final minutes ticked away. All species in the galaxy agree to share scientific data with the Radiant. In exchange, the Radiant use their energy-based existence to help protect everyone from cosmic threats. Time, Judge Crystallius Prime announced as the 72 hours ended. The three humans were brought back to the tribunal chamber. They looked exhausted but determined. The judges and hundreds of observers waited to hear the results. Present. Your solutions, Judge Luminera Eternal commanded. For the next 4 hours, Lisa, Amy, and Jake presented their solutions to all 100 cases. Instead of the usual galactic approach of determining winners and losers, Every human solution found ways for all parties to benefit through cooperation. The territorial dispute between the Aryans and Lithoids became a profitable partnership. The trade route war ended with shared prosperity. The enslaved dwellers gained freedom while helping their former masters build a better society. Even the impossible final cases had been solved. The time travel paradox was resolved by letting both timelines exist in different parts of space. The energy beings found purpose in protecting the galaxy instead of demanding payment from it. As the humans finished their presentation, the tribunal chamber was completely silent. The judges looked at each other with expressions of shock and confusion. In 50,000 years of galactic law, the swarm being finally said, no solutions like these have ever been proposed. That's because your legal system is designed to create conflict, not resolve it, Jake replied. Judge Crystallius Prime spoke slowly. The mathematical formulas that govern our decisions do not account for solutions where all parties benefit. Maybe that's the problem with your formulas, Amy suggested. The machine being ran calculations for several minutes. According to our analysis, 97 of your solutions would create greater overall prosperity and happiness than current galactic law allows. What about the other 3? Lisa asked. The other 3 solutions are so superior to existing law that our computers cannot properly calculate their benefits. The tree being admitted. Judge Luminera Eternal looked troubled. You have successfully completed the trial of perfect justice. This has never happened before in the history of galactic law. So what's the second trial? Jake asked. Judge Crystallius Prime hesitated before answering. The trial of ultimate sacrifice. Humanity must prove its commitment to justice by accepting punishment for every wrong decision made by galactic law over the past 1,000 years. Amy felt her heart sink. What kind of punishment? Complete destruction of the human species, the machine being replied. The trial tests whether you believe in justice strongly enough to die for it, even when you are not personally responsible for the crimes. Lisa stared at the judges in disbelief. You want us to accept execution for crimes we didn't commit? That is the nature of ultimate sacrifice, the swarm being explained. True commitment to justice means accepting responsibility for fixing injustice, regardless of personal cost. Jake looked at his companions. They had succeeded in the first trial, but the second trial seemed designed to make victory impossible. How could they accept death for humanity while still fighting to reform galactic law? How long do we have to decide? Lisa asked. The trial begins immediately, Judge Crystallius Prime announced. You have 1 hour to accept ultimate sacrifice, or forfeit your right to continue the trial by ordeal. As guards prepared to escort them to a holding chamber, Amy whispered urgently to Jake and Lisa, I think I know how to win this trial, but it's going to require us to completely redefine what sacrifice means. The fate of humanity now hung on their ability to find a way to accept ultimate sacrifice without actually dying in the process. In the holding chamber, Amy paced back and forth while Jake and Lisa watched nervously. They had less than an hour to find a way to accept ultimate sacrifice without destroying humanity. I've been thinking about what sacrifice really means, Amy said. The judges expect us to accept death as punishment for past crimes. But what if we redefine sacrifice to mean something more powerful? Lisa looked confused. What could be more ultimate than death? Responsibility, Amy replied. Instead of accepting punishment for past wrongs, we accept the responsibility to prevent future ones. Jake began to understand. You mean we sacrifice our freedom to become servants of justice? Exactly, Amy said excitedly. We offer to dedicate humanity's entire future to fixing the galactic legal system. We sacrifice our right to live for ourselves alone. Lisa saw the brilliance of the idea. It's still ultimate sacrifice because we're giving up humanity's independence, but it's also more useful than just dying. When the hour ended, they were brought before the tribunal again. Judge Crystallius Prime waited for their answer. We accept the trial of ultimate sacrifice, Jake announced, but we define ultimate sacrifice as the dedication of humanity's entire future to serving galactic justice. The crystal judge looked surprised. That is not the traditional interpretation of this trial. Nothing about our trials has been traditional, Lisa pointed out. We've solved impossible cases by thinking beyond traditional limitations. Ultimate sacrifice should also be redefined to serve justice better. Amy stepped forward. Killing us accomplishes nothing except revenge. But if humanity dedicates itself to reforming galactic law, billions of beings across the galaxy will benefit. The 5 judges spoke among themselves in their own languages. Their discussion went on for over an hour. Finally, Judge Luminara Eternal spoke. Your interpretation of sacrifice is logical. By dedicating your species to serving justice, you accept responsibility for reforming a system that has caused suffering for 50,000 years. The commitment you offer is indeed ultimate, the tree being added. Your entire species would exist solely to serve others. Judge Crystallius Prime nodded slowly. We accept your sacrifice. You have passed the second trial. Jake felt relief wash over him, but Amy grabbed his arm. There's still one more trial. The trial of absolute truth, the machine being announced. You must prove that your way of thinking about justice is superior to 50,000 years of galactic law, the swarm being projected images around the chamber. Our legal system has maintained peace across the galaxy for millennia. Wars are rare, civilizations are stable, resources are managed efficiently. You call slavery efficient resource management, Lisa shot back. We call it order, Judge Crystallius Prime replied. Before galactic law, this galaxy was consumed by constant war. Species fought over every world, every resource, every trade route. Billions died in endless conflicts. Amy studied the historical data being projected. Your law ended the wars by making sure weak species could never challenge strong ones. You created peace through oppression. Better oppression than extinction, the machine being argued. Primitive species that are managed by advanced ones survive. Those left to develop on their own often destroy themselves or each other. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. So you decided to play God with every species in the galaxy. We decided to preserve life and maintain order, the tree being replied. Your human emotions make you see oppression where logic sees necessity. Lisa had been studying the legal code while the judges spoke. She found something that made her smile. You say your system maintains order, she said. But I've been looking at your own records. In the past 1,000 years, you've authorized the complete destruction of 47 species. Species that threatened galactic stability, Judge Luminara Eternal explained. Species that grew strong enough to challenge your authority, Amy corrected. You didn't destroy them to maintain order. You destroyed them to maintain your power. Jake pointed to the historical data. Your system doesn't preserve weak species. It just decides which ones live and which ones die based on whether they threaten your control. Furthermore, Lisa continued, your mathematics show that galactic prosperity has actually declined over the past 10,000 years. Fewer new technologies are being developed. Fewer species are achieving spaceflight. The galaxy is becoming stagnant under your rule. The judges looked uncomfortable as the humans dismantled their arguments one by one. Our solutions to the 100 impossible cases prove that cooperation creates better results than domination, Amy declared. Every single case we solved generated more prosperity and happiness than your traditional winners and losers approach. But your solutions are untested, the swarm being protested. They may work in theory, but galactic law has been proven over 50 millennia. Jake stepped forward. Your law has been proven to create and maintain injustice. Our approach has been proven to solve problems that your system couldn't handle for thousands of years. More importantly, Lisa added, our way grows stronger over time while yours grows weaker. Cooperation builds trust and prosperity. Domination builds resentment and rebellion. Amy had the final argument. Look at humanity itself. We went from primitive stone tools to space travel in just 10,000 years. We did it through cooperation, sharing knowledge, and helping each other advance. Species under your managed system stay primitive forever because you don't let them grow. Judge Crystallius Prime was quiet for a long time. Your arguments have merit, But changing 50,000 years of established law would create chaos across the galaxy. Changing it would create justice across the galaxy, Jake replied. The chaos you fear is just the fear of losing control, the machine being ran more calculations. Our analysis suggests that implementing human legal philosophy would indeed create greater prosperity and happiness in the long term. But it would also end the current power structure, the tree being noted. That's exactly why it needs to be done, Lisa said firmly. The 5 judges retreated to deliberate for hours. When they returned, their expressions were unlike anything the humans had seen before. In all of galactic history, Judge Luminara Eternal began, no species has ever successfully completed the trial by ordeal. Amy held her breath. You have not only completed all 3 trials, Judge Crystallius Prime continued. You have done so in ways that challenge the very foundation of our understanding of justice, the swarm being spoke next. According to the ancient laws that govern the trial, by ordeal, successful completion grants the defendants the right to restructure galactic law according to their own principles. Jake could hardly believe what he was hearing. However, the machine being added, we must also inform you that accepting this right means accepting responsibility for governing the legal affairs of over 10,000 species across the galaxy. The tree being concluded, you have earned the sole right to judge galactic trials. The question now is whether you will accept the burden of rebuilding civilization itself. Lisa looked at Jake and Amy. 3 humans from a small planet would now be responsible for creating justice for an entire galaxy. We accept, Jake said without hesitation. 6 months later, Jake stood in the command center of Haven's Rest, a massive space station that served as the new galactic courthouse. The old tribunal ship had been converted into a museum showing the history of the failed legal system. Amy worked with teams from hundreds of species to develop new frameworks for resolving conflicts. Instead of judges who handed down verdicts, they created mediators who helped species find solutions together. Lisa headed the Galactic Advocacy Corps, making sure that every being had someone to speak for them in legal proceedings. No one would face the law alone ever again. The changes were dramatic. Species that had been enslaved for thousands of years were working as equal partners with their former masters. Ancient conflicts were being resolved through cooperation instead of conquest. New technologies and ideas spread freely across the galaxy as species shared knowledge instead of hoarding it. Not everything was perfect. Some old civilizations resisted the changes and had to be convinced through patient negotiation. Some conflicts took months to resolve instead of minutes. But for the first time in 50,000 years, the galaxy was growing stronger instead of stagnating. Jake received daily reports from across the galaxy. The Aryans and Lithoids had become the most successful trading partnership in their sector. The former Zephyrian slavers were now running refugee assistance programs. The energy beings who once demanded payment for light itself had become the galaxy's most effective disaster prevention service. As Jake watched ships from dozens of species arriving at Haven's Rest to seek justice, he smiled. Humanity had not just earned the right to judge galactic trials. They had earned the chance to prove that justice could serve life instead of controlling it. The day humanity earned the sole right to judge galactic trials was not the day they proved their superiority. It was the day they proved that even the most ancient injustices could be transformed into cooperation, growth, and hope. In conference rooms throughout Haven's Rest, humans worked alongside beings they had never imagined could exist. Together, they were building something that had never existed before, a galaxy where law served all life equally.